long-standing friendship has been established. The Kegelbrüder, the Brothers of the Nine Pins in Germany, are a similar association. So also the gymnast societies (300,000 members in Germany), the informal brotherhood of paddlers in France, the yacht clubs, and so on. Such associations certainly do not alter the economical stratification of society, but especially in the small towns they contribute to smooth social distinctions, and as they all tend to join in large national and international federations, they certainly aid the growth of personal friendly intercourse between all sorts of men scattered in different parts of the globe. The alpine clubs, the Jagdverein in Germany, which has over 100,000 members, hunters, educated foresters, zoologists, and simple lovers of nature, and the International Ornithological Society, which includes zoologists, breeders, and simple peasants in Germany, have the same character. Not only have they done in a few years a large amount of very useful work which large associations alone could do properly (maps, refuge huts, mountain roads, studies of animal life, of noxious insects, of migration of birds, and so on), but they create new bonds between men. Two alpinists of different nationalities who meet in a refuge hut in the Caucasus, or the professor and the peasant ornithologist who stay in the same house, are no more strangers to each other, while the Uncle Toby's Society at Newcastle, which has already induced over 260,000 boys and girls never to destroy birds' nests and to be kind to all animals, has certainly done more for the development of human feelings and of taste in natural science than lots of moralists and most of our schools. We cannot omit even in this rapid review the thousands of scientific, literary, artistic, and educational societies. Up till now, the scientific bodies, closely controlled and often subsidized by the state, have generally moved in a very narrow circle, and they often came to be looked upon as mere openings for getting state appointments, while the very narrowness of their circles undoubtedly bred petty jealousies. Still, it is a fact that the distinctions of birth, political parties, and creeds are smoothed to some extent by such associations, while in the smaller and remote towns the scientific, geographical, or musical societies, especially those of them which appeal to a larger circle of amateurs, become small centres of intellectual life, a sort of link between the little spot and the wide world, and a place where men of very different conditions meet on a footing of equality. To fully appreciate the value of such centres, one ought to know them, say, in Siberia. As to the countless educational societies which only now begin to break down the state's and the church monopolies in education, they are sure to become before long the leading power in that branch. To the Froebel unions we already owe the kindergarten system, and to a number of formal and informal educational associations we owe the high standard of women's education in Russia, although all the time these societies and groups had to act in strong opposition to a powerful government. The Medical Academy for Women (which has given to Russia a large portion of her 700 graduated lady doctors), the four ladies' universities (about 1,000 pupils in 1887), closed that year and reopened in 1895), and the High Commercial School for Women are entirely the work of such private societies. To the same societies we owe the high standard which the girls' gymnasia attained since they were opened in the 60s. The 100 gymnasia now scattered over the empire (over 70,000 pupils), correspond to the high schools for girls in this country. All teachers are, however, graduates of the universities. As to the various pedagogical societies in Germany, it is well known that they have done the best part in the working out of the modern methods of teaching science in popular schools. In such associations the teacher finds also his best support. How miserable the overworked and underpaid village teacher would have been without their aid. The Verein für Verbreitung Gemäßnützlicher Kenntnis, although it has only 5,500 members, has already opened more than 1,000 public and school libraries, organized thousands of lectures, and published most valuable books. All these associations, societies, brotherhoods, alliances, institutes, and so on, which must now be counted by the 10,000 in Europe alone, and each of which represents an immense amount of voluntary, unambitious, and unpaid or underpaid work, what are they but so many manifestations under an infinite variety of aspects of the same ever-living tendency of men towards mutual aid and support? For nearly 3 centuries men were prevented from joining hands even for literary, artistic, and educational purposes. Societies could only be formed under the protection of the state or the church, or as secret brotherhoods like Freemasonry. But now that the resistance has been broken, they swarm in all directions. They extend over all multifarious various branches of human activity. They become international, and they undoubtedly contribute to an extent which cannot yet be fully appreciated to break down the screens erected by states between different nationalities. Notwithstanding the jealousies which are bred by commercial competition and the provocations to hatred which are sounded by the ghost of a decaying past, there is a conscience of international solidarity which is growing both among the leading spirits of the world and the masses of the workers, since they also have conquered the right of international intercourse, and in the preventing of a European war during the last quarter of a century, this spirit has undoubtedly had its share. The religious charitable associations, which again represent a whole world, certainly must be mentioned in this place. There is not the slightest doubt that the great bulk of their members are moved by the same mutual aid feelings which are common to all mankind. Unhappily, the religious teachers of men prefer to ascribe to such feelings a supernatural origin. Many of them pretend that man does not consciously obey the mutual aid inspiration so long as he has not been enlightened by the teachings of the special religion which they represent, and with St. Augustine most of them do not recognize such feelings in the pagan savage. Moreover, while early Christianity, like all other religions, was an appeal to the broadly human feelings of mutual aid and sympathy, the Christian Church has aided the state in wrecking all standing institutions of mutual aid and support which were anterior to it or developed outside of it, and instead of the mutual aid which every savage considers as due to his kinsmen, it has preached charity which bears a character of inspiration from above, and accordingly implies a certain superiority of the giver upon the receiver. With this limitation, and without any intention to give offence to those who consider themselves as a body elect when they accomplish acts simply humane, we certainly may consider the immense numbers of religious charitable associations as an outcome of the same mutual aid tendency. All these facts show that a reckless prosecution of personal interests with no regard to other people's needs is not the only characteristic of modern life. By the side of this current which so proudly claims leadership in human affairs, we perceive a hard struggle sustained by both the rural and industrial populations in order to reintroduce standing institutions of mutual aid and support, and we discover in all classes of society a widely spread movement towards the establishment of an infinite variety of more or less permanent institutions for the same purpose. But when we pass from public life to the private life of a modern individual, we discover another extremely wide world of mutual aid and support, which only passes unnoticed by most sociologists because it is limited to the narrow circle of the family and personal friendship. Footnote. Very few writers in sociology have paid attention to it. Dr. Thering is one of them, and his case is very instructive. When the great German writer on law began his philosophical work, Der Zweck in Recht (purpose in law), he intended to analyze the active forces which call forth the advance of society and maintain it, and to thus give the theory of the sociable man. He analyzed first the egotistic forces at work, including the present wage system and coercion in its variety of political and social laws, and in a carefully worked out scheme of his work he intended to give the last paragraph to the ethical forces, the sense of duty and mutual love, which contribute to the same aim. When he came, however, to discuss the social function of these two factors, he had to write a second volume, twice as big as the first, and yet he treated only of the personal factors, which will take in the following pages only a few lines. L. Dargun took up the same idea in Egoismus and Altruismus in Der Nationalökonomie, Leipzig 1885, adding some new facts. Buchner's Love and the several paraphrases of it, published here and in Germany, deal with the same subject. Under the present social system, all bonds of union among the inhabitants of the same street or neighborhood have been dissolved. In the richer parts of the large towns, people live without knowing who are their next-door neighbors, but in the crowded lanes, people know each other perfectly and are continually brought into mutual contact. Of course, petty quarrels go their course, in the lanes as elsewhere, but groupings in accordance with personal affinities grow up, and within the circle, mutual aid is practiced to an extent of which the richer classes have no idea. If we take for instance the children of a poor neighborhood who play in a street or a churchyard or on a green, we notice at once that a close union exists among them, notwithstanding the temporary fights, and that union protects them from all sorts of misfortunes. As soon as a mite bends inquisitively over the opening of a drain, "Don't stop there," another mite shouts out. "Feather sits in the hole. Don't climb over that wall. The train will kill you if you tumble down. Don't come near to the ditch. Don't eat those berries, poison. You will die." Such are the first teachings jinx imported to the urchin when he joins his mates outdoors? How many of the children whose playgrounds are the pavements around model workers' dwellings, or the quays and bridges of the canals, would be crushed to death by the carts or drowned in the muddy waters, were it not for that sort of mutual support